They can't get, they definitely can't fly. That's so weird. The flies have now become walks. That's so weird. Okay, now I'm gonna increase the pressure and watch them start to be able to fly. Turn on the air. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so that video was the Action Lab, man, right? Some crazy scientist guy. And what he was doing, he put flies, right, the insects, into a vacuum chamber, and he pumped out the air. Like I've been telling people, there is no such thing as gravity. That's a lie. All right, because flies do not float. They do not defy this so-called gravity. What flies do, and birds and planes, is they glide on the air. You understand? They glide on the air. Even the hawks and the eagles, them glide on the heat raising up the air. You understand? The hot air rising. You understand? So let's get into what I want to talk about, man. And I've been going on a rant about this. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made. You understand? 6 days, right? And the operations of the elements. You hear that? The operations of the elements, right? So you have a periodic table right here, right, of the elements, right? You see the that one H, that's hydrogen, and that 2 He is helium, right? Some gas thing, right? Now, we all learn this in our high school, and we all know, so since we don't use this every day, that it's just not just off the top of my head, right? But some of them is gases, some of them is metals, some of them is inert gases. You understand? We know what this is that we're looking at, right? Right? So, when you talk about the density or something, right? So, watch this, right? Wood. If me, right, drop a piece of wood out of my hand right now, I'm standing in my room. Right, hold on. Let me get a piece of wood, right? It's a broomstick, right? So I have this piece of broomstick in my hand, right? I'm about to let it go, right? You see the wood, right? You heard that? It dropped to the floor. Because this wood is denser than the air. You understand? Density, if I might get it wrong, density is mass divided by volume. M divided by V, right? So, when you're on the periodic table, right, you have something called an atomic number, right? That's the number of the atoms that make it up, the electrons, the protons, and the neutrons in each element, the molecule of the element, right? You divide that by the volume of it. So, then you get the density. So, the wood is less dense than canola oil. Well, this type of wood, right? And that is less dense than the milk, right? Milk is more dense than water. Water floats on milk, right? Syrup is more dense than milk and more dense than water, so it sinks, right? So is corn syrup and so is honey. Honey, the most dense in this picture we're looking at, right? Liquids and solids, different density, right? And look at the nut, the steel nut, right? That's bottom. But the dye, it can float in the syrup, right? And the wood can float in rubbing alcohol on top of the canola oil. This is the different densities of the elements, right? The elements. So you're telling me that gravity is strong enough to wall down the whole entire of the Earth's oceans, but not strong enough to put down that little piece of wood to the ground to the bottom of the glass? You telling me that? Because gravity is a lie made up by Copernicus and the Grecians. Remember, all the time I tell you about them Grecian man them. They parted God's land. The Grecians, the children of Israel were sold to the Grecians. When Alexander and the 4 generals take over in the book of Maccabees, it said that evils were multiplied on the earth. You understand? We all had kings, but when the Grecians take over, they took over everyone's king and gave them all presidents and senators and all them things. That's why the Jews, them say, we have no king but Caesar. Because they weren't growing into this king thing. They read about kings. They read about Jeconiah. They read about Josiah, Hezekiah, they read about them man there, but they never seen a king from one of them because the Romans were the kings in that time. You understand? No king but Caesar. So why I bring all that up is to show you, man. Look, just look at it, right? Look at the elements one more time. Right? This is a chart. You have the atomic number them. And then you have the mass. This chart don't show you all of the numbers, but you have the numbers, the mass, and you take that and you divide it by the volume of it. So I have a liter of liquid gold, right? And then I calculate the liter versus the atomic mass of it, right? Say the atomic mass of gold is 80, right? I divide that by a milliliter. 80 divided by 1,000 liters. I'm not a math whiz in my head. You understand? So I'm just gonna make something up. I'll say it's 1.2, right? 12, right? 1.2 cubic, whatever. You understand? That's how it goes. So even have the density of the gases, right? Gas, right? So hydrogen is less dense than helium, right? So it floats on the helium, but helium is less dense than nitrogen and oxygen. So it floats on the oxygen and the air. You understand? That's why. So that video I showed you was of the flies, right? But I wanted to really show a different video, but that video was good instead. But they have videos of balloons filled with helium inside of these vacuum chambers, right? And some youth, I was arguing with him on Twitter about gravity, and I was telling him put a helium balloon in a vacuum chamber, see if it still sinks. And he was so pissed and happy to send me the video saying, see, gravity is real. But I'm like, so what happened? So what changed in this in this vacuum chamber that made the helium balloon go to the ground, right? The air was pumped out. That's what you understand, the man know. I'm like, I told you this is density, bro. Cause the helium was never defying gravity. The helium was less dense. What you're watching the density chart as I'm talking about this, right? The helium was less dense than whatever was in the air, the oxygen, the nitrogen, wherever else. It was less dense. And plus the helium was in a balloon closed off, right? So when you see helium balloons floating, because helium is an element, right? It's not because gravity defying, it's because the air, you cannot see the air, so you cannot get what I'm saying, but you can see liquid, right? And this is what's happening. Pretend the honey is regular air, the corn syrup is helium, right? That's what's going to happen. If I'm in, say we're pretending it's air now, right? So you can see it, right? Pretend regular air is the color of the honey and helium is clear. If I have a clear thing down in the honey section, once I let it go off the string, it's gonna fly up until it meet, you understand? Until it meet hydrogen. Then it's gonna stop floating because it's more dense than the hydrogen. You understand? That's why balloons fly up in the sky. That's why I'm telling you, gravity is a lie. You understand? People that make up gravity just don't understand this. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 17. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made and the operations of the elements. The operations, how they work, how they operate, man. That's what I'm talking about. You understand? There's no such thing as gravity. It's density and buoyancy. I'm proving it to you. You understand? Look upon the gas density, right? Hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, oxygen, air. That's the regular. You understand? It's lined up in order of less dense to most dense. And these things float on top of each other. That's why you see just I can rant about it all day long, but I just want to hammer this point to make people understand what I'm saying. Because if I make this video, right, somebody might see it and say, yo, let me take off another point, Tata, because I understand what you're saying. Let me say it better, man. You understand? That's why I'm bringing it out. People gonna say, oh, what this matter, bro? It does matter because we're gonna cast down every stronghold, every imagination. You think every Bible thumping man that believe from Revelation to Genesis, you think we're just all farmer, drug dealers. No, some of us was super nerds and geeks. Some of us was bad man. Some of us was dancers and things. So we know certain things from the life we're coming from. And this thing that I know, it's in the Bible. You see me? The operation of the elements, man. And the covalent bonds, all of them things. Electron, you see me? Things operate differently at different size. That's how an ant can just walk up a wall, because you cannot see the indents in the wall that he's sticking his hairs into, that's latching on. You can't see that. You understand? You cannot see. You have to have special glasses to see certain lights and certain gas, right? You cannot see the air. Say if the science man make up some glasses that make you see the air, different gases, like you can see nitrogen as green, you're gonna see hydrogen as blue, right? Then you can see the different densities, right? You would see it. You'd be like, oh man, that's the helium right there. So, oh son, don't climb that tree and stay right there in that pocket, because there's a pocket of helium right there. So you understand? You would see these things. But I'm making it plain for you today. There is no such thing as gravity. So when you see the sun and the moon, right? And this is important because it casts down imaginations, like I said, because they can say, oh, we went to the moon. But how is the moon just floating in the air? Huh? Because the moon is less dense than the air. So the moon floats. You understand? Sun the same way, the stars the same way. So how could you land on something less dense than air? It doesn't happen. You understand? So we don't have enough money. It's homeless veterans, it's women getting kicked out of their house with their children because pandemic money run out. And we giving NASA 50 million a day for talk about they land on something. They landed on something lighter than air with something heavier than air. How you do that? That's like me landing a spaceship on a pile of honey and expecting the spaceship to just stand on the honey. You understand? It's just fake lies, man. We're casting down all strongholds and imaginations, man. Remember, we read this word of God, right? Wisdom of Solomon 7:17. For he had given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. Okay.